It is 4 p.m. You can begin.
Thanks, William. Thank you so much, and welcome to all to our another very exciting STEM webinar series. This time, we're very privileged to have Captain Ling from AirAsia to talk about safety, and equally privileged to have Captain Kannan to host this wonderful webinar. Right? A quick introduction. I'm Ramesh, and together with my partner William from STEM for All Makerspace, I've decided that to do this series of STEM webinar sessions to share with you some very exciting developments in the STEM field of STEM. For example, we had talks on the air traffic safety. We had talks on environment and many other interesting topics. Last week we had retired Brigadier General to talk about helicopters. Interesting point is that these are industry experts, all right? So they have experienced a lot of things, not just academically, but also their expertise and experience. So we are very grateful to Captain Kannan for initiating this because he felt that we should actually engage with the students and to create greater awareness and interest by bringing the industry experts to share. Right? So this whole series we call our STEM webinar series. William has told me to remind you what STEM is about. We often take it for granted that everybody knows about STEM. Now, the reason STEM is being emphasized is because there is less interest among students to go into the fields of STEM. So there is less students going into engineering and into what you call computer science. Generally, it is a huge problem, not only in Malaysia, in many other countries. So STEM is an initiative to get more students to go into the sciences. All right, and for that reason, we have established a STEM for All Makerspace, and it is a very engaging, very exciting, interactive space. Of course, during this current time we can't do anything physically, so we have gone online. Okay, virtually, we are doing this series of programs, right? And to make it more exciting for this particular session, there will be a quiz. I think Captain Kannan will later, as a moderator, introduce these quizzes and how we are going to give away some interesting prizes to those who are able to answer the questions in a shortest period of time. All right. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Captain Kannan, who is a person who is very experienced pilot, a young professor with UTM, and a very passionate person in bringing education to our kids, okay, especially on STEM education. So, Captain, can you please do the introduction to our distinguished speaker today?
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. First of all, thanks to Captain Ling to join us. So again, as what Mr. Ramesh introduced, this webinar, part of STEM, which stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics, is conducted together with the Arts and Design. It talks about arts and design, and also MAKRI, which is the Malaysian Association of Creativity and Innovation.
That's right.
So this program, we thought about it, and as what Mr. Ramesh said, is part of the outreach program, educational program, to spark interest in STEM career. So, having all these type of talks, we have also last few weeks, and then we plan for next every week we have, right? So basically we want to spark the interest within all the school children about it, right? And engaging the educators. So we hope that there'll be also teachers in this group to bring this knowledge to their students, and also parents, right? And eventually goes to the community, and then the whole group can eventually contribute to the industry. That's the most important, right? And also we want to promote and showcase creative ideas. When you listen to these talks, hopefully you get some ideas, right? And inspire school children of all ages. And this type of talks, I've said that we want to those secondary school, because then you can understand certain terms, right? The primary can listen, but you may not be able to capture certain things. You can look at the pictures and you can get excited with certain items. We want the secondary. Right. So to do this today, we have Captain Ling today with us. Very experienced, over 30 years experience in flying, in the flying career. He started with Malaysian Airlines, and then moved to Middle East with Etihad, and then now he's with AirAsia for quite some time. And he is very important man in AirAsia. he ensures safety, right? So he takes care of the safety of the AirAsia Group itself. So that's why we invited him to give a talk on how to fly safely. You know, it's not that you are flying safely, but what is behind the safe operation of the aircraft. So he will give us some insight knowledge on that. So hopefully after this talk, you are very brave to go on an aircraft, and probably he will also say that fly AirAsia more. Right. So with that, I would like to invite Captain Ling. Captain, can you can take over from now on? Thank you very much.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Distinguished teachers and also students, and of course, STEM for having me on this talk today. Well, like what Captain Kanan and Ramesh has mentioned also, the idea is to share some of our knowledge with everyone. And also probably some of you may have some questions, probably sometimes it's not widely discussed, sometimes not being talked about a lot. And sometimes we do have the question, but we don't know who to ask. So it's my honor today to share some of my experience, my knowledge throughout the years in the industry, and hopefully can answer some of your questions that you may have. And of course, at the end of the session, by all means, if you have any questions, please, by the way, please do ask. I will do my best to answer whatever questions you may have. So to start off with, maybe just a quick introduction of myself, like what Captain Kana has also mentioned. Just before that, the topic today is about the science behind flight safety. I call it so. Is in a very general manner. It's just not about flying the aeroplane. I mean, we pilots we call it aircraft. Engineers we call it aircraft, but for the general people, we call it aeroplane or plane. So I also do my best, try not to use all these technical or terms or jargon so that everybody can understand what I'm saying. So just a quick introduction of myself. Okay, so like what Captain Galas mentioned, I started my career in Malaysia Airlines. I was a cadet pilot back then, very young. So I went to Australia for my pilot training, and I came back. I went to Sarawak to fly one of these smaller aircraft. If any one of you have been in Sabah, Sarawak, probably have seen this aircraft on the left side. It's called Twin Otter, so it carries 19 passengers. It has no aircon, so it's very hot. And we fly into the mountains to bring people in and out through difficult terrain. So sometimes it may take days to travel to the hometown from the river, mostly trekking. Of course, after that, I move on to the jets, which is the one on the lower right, the 737. So we started flying domestic, regional, and then after 10 years, I was privileged to have the opportunity to go to the Middle East and join Etihad Airways. And then after a few years, I decided to come home to Malaysia, where my home is. My heart is always at home. So I came back and joined AirAsia. And until today, I've been in AirAsia for, I think, just over 12 years. So it has been an interesting journey. I've done many, many things other than flying. So probably just share a little bit more with everyone today. Okay, so just a quick question for everyone. You don't have to what do you call it? Spend too much time to think about it. Just sit back, relax, and just try to see. Let me share my experience with you. So the first thing first is probably a very general question. Sometimes we get: when was the last time you've been on a flight? Or have you ever been on a flight, or have you one of those that's used to travel a lot, but in the past 1.5 years is just sitting at home looking at your computer screen and probably talking to the camera only? So just try to imagine yourself, when was the last time you were on a flight, or you have not been. Just try to imagine what do you think you will go through if you want to go on a plane, go on a flight to anywhere, to Penang, to Kota Kinabalu, or maybe even further to Australia. Just have a think about it. What are the things you will need to do, or a person will need to go through in order to get on board to a flight and get on to your destination? So just have a little think about it. Well, to help you with, just imagine you are The Rock. I'm sure everybody knows who's The Rock. Dwayne Johnson, the very famous actor. I think his latest movie was Jungle Cruise. Yeah, I think I just watched it probably a few days back. So this is big guy. He's a big guy. He's 188 cm, which is more than 6 feet, and he's almost 120 kilos. And he used to be a wrestler. Of course, he's a full-time actor now. Just imagine a guy like him, or imagine you are this person going on a flight. So the reason why I wanted to use the special person, or rather a bigger size person, to just to share with you what are the things we need to consider, what are the things we need to basically look after. If he was the one, or you are like him, going on a flight. So just to start off with, first thing first, you need to book a ticket, isn't it? So using AirAsia platform as an example, let's say you want to book a flight from Kuala Lumpur to Kota Kinabalu. So first thing first, you need to key in your details, your date of birth and your contact details. And then because now it's very different. Those days when we started traveling, you have to go to a ticketing office to book a flight, to pay for it. And then you have to go really, really early to the airport so that you can sort of beg the counter to give you a good seat. The kids will always want a window seat, and then the parents will always want an aisle seat. Those were the days. But nowadays, you can do everything online. You can book a ticket. You can even choose which seat you would like to sit. So if you are traveling with your mom and dad, you probably can pick a row of 3 seats. And then, of course, if you have a bigger party of people traveling, you probably can pick a row that's on the left, on the right, or the front, or the back, and so on and so forth. So the main thing I wanted to talk about on this is, although it may seem pretty straightforward. I want to take a flight. I need to book a ticket. I need to pick a seat. So pretty straightforward. But there are a lot of things that's happening behind the scene when this is being shown to anyone. Is the simple reason is just to share with everyone is that when you put in your date of birth, we will understand how old are you. So are you considered an infant? Infant, the definition of infant is anyone baby below the age of 2. Anyone between above 2 is considered a child. Anyone above 18 years old is considered an adult. So with that, the system or the back end people are able to capture who is this person's booking a seat. So example would be, if you are a child or you're a baby, there are certain seats in the aeroplane or in the cabin that you're not allowed to sit. I'll explain a little bit more. So just have a look at the two, we call it the seat diagram on your right. So you see especially the one on the right, you see some of these arrows, black color arrows pointing out on the aeroplanes. Basically, these are exits. Exits means doors for you to go out. So those are the seats, the places that any child are not allowed to sit, because in the event or unlikely event of an emergency, we need to have an adult that is strong enough to open up the emergency exit so that people can leave the aircraft safely. So The Rock, being a big guy, he's a perfect candidate to sit next to the emergency exit. So these are the things that people may not realize, but behind the science of it, these things are taken into consideration from the very start of your journey. Meaning to say, when you start booking a flight, this information are starting to be captured, to be looked into. And moving on, when the day comes that you go for your flight, like I said previously, we go to the check-in counter, and when back the check-in counter, they give us nice seats. But nowadays, you don't need to do that anymore. You can pick your own seats. So now, even more advanced, when you go to the airport, you don't even need to go to the counter anymore. You can go to we call it the kiosk. And those days, you need to punch in your reservation number. So every ticket comes with a number, you need to punch it in. But now, we don't even need to do that. Now, everything comes with QR code. For those that are not familiar, QR code is just like, hopefully not too often that you have been going out to restaurants, like your MyAirAsia Charter phone, you scan the QR code, you're able to tell where are you. So with the booking, you don't even need a ticket. On your phone, you can go and log in, scan the QR code. You will know that, okay, Mr. Johnson, The Rock, has come to the airport and he's checking in for his flight. Therefore, you will print out the boarding pass. Actually, to be honest, nowadays they don't even print boarding pass anymore. You will just capture the system, say that you have checked in, your boarding pass is actually on your phone. But before you can check in, they will ask you a series of questions. They will show you some pictures to ask you, to tell you, do you have any of these items on the pictures on the right? So these are the prohibited items that you cannot bring on board. For example, you cannot bring knife, axe, gun, or any explosive. These are the things you're not allowed to bring on board. It may cause harm to yourself and also to others. So these are the safety features that has been built in throughout the process to make sure everyone that goes on board are only bringing things they are supposed to bring. Things they are not supposed to bring in, they will not be bringing in. So this is the first layer of checking to ask you, excuse me, sir, please make sure you before you check in, make sure you check your bag to ensure that you don't have any of these, we call it prohibited or dangerous items that you're bringing on board. Of course, the next thing is, as you go through the airport, before you get to the gate, you will go through these security checks. So the idea of security check is is a second layer to make sure whatever items you bring on board, sometimes you may have forgotten, sometimes we may have forgotten we have a pair of scissors or a lighter or a sharp knife, or we used to a letter opener for the matter, we may have forgot that we have left in the bag. So the security scan is to make sure the passengers don't bring prohibited items on board. And also, should there be any people with the ill intention or bad intention, they may try to smuggle something in, where else the security will also pick it up. So you can see not only your bags get scanned, if you look at the guy on the red shirt, just behind him is another security standing what we call a gantry. So it's a gantry to pick up any metal content that is on your body. So if, for example, you have a pair of scissors in your pocket, the thing will beep, 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 beep. Then you will say, okay, the security will then ask this person, okay, can you empty your pockets? Can you make sure you don't have any coins, any sharp objects, whatever on your body, so that they can check it, they have a look at it and check whether this item is allowed on board or not. So these are some of the things that the process that we go through. So as I talk more about it, you will realize that it's not just about flying an aeroplane safely. It's the entire process. There are many safety and security process put into place to ensure a safe flying for everyone. Okay, so now finally you have reached to the cabin. You have come on board to the aircraft. I'm not sure if anyone missed sitting in this cabin, although it looks a bit crowded. Sometimes I do, because for the past 1.5 years I have not been going anywhere. So once you come to the cabin, then you can relate back to just now when you book a flight that time, you look at the seat cabin, so you can't relate it. Oh, my seat was a 12E, so you go to row number 12, look for seat number E, that is where your seat is. And if you look up to the top of the pictures on both sides, you see those compartments that are open up for people to put their bags. For those who have been on the aeroplane or those who have been traveling, you probably will remember this. So people will put their bags on top, or you put the bags under your seat. Now, if you have not realized, many of the airlines, or most of the airlines nowadays, they will keep reminding passengers to travel light. Try not to bring heavy items into the airplane. Whenever you can, the heavy items, keep it in the aeroplane belly, in the check-in cargo. So the cargo agent will load it for you into the aircraft belly so that you can go safely to destination with you. But when you bring things into the cabin, try not to bring heavy things. Just imagine, for example, a cabin that can carry 300 people, and everybody brings a 10-kilo bags. You can use the mathematics to calculate how many kilos is that. So just to share with everyone, in general, these aircraft all have a weight limit to the we call this the overhead compartment. This overhead compartment, that's where you put your bags. So each of these compartments in general can carry 40 kilos. So if there are 4 bags of 10 kilos, it's 40 kilos. So imagine if 4 people, everyone brings 15 kilo, which means you have exceeded the weight on top of the overhead cabin compartment. So what do you think will happen when you have something that is overweight or more than 40 or maybe 50 kilos hanging on top of your head? It can pose a certain amount of danger. But of course, these cabins are designed to put in this weight, but there are additional safety features on it. Of course, a lot of testing has been put into design to make sure in times of turbulence or whatever, it will withstand a much higher weight stress, so you can take a lot higher than that. But in general, try your best to carry not as heavy items onto the plane. If you do need to carry heavy items, check it in, put it in the cargo belly. And you will also realize, for those who we can remember when we travel the time, the cabin crew will always be around to help out, to tell people, put your bags here, put your bag there, try to spread out. What they are doing is actually making sure that these compartments are not overloaded. Sometimes they do, sir, do you mind putting your bag on the other side? Because they actually observe this compartment may be too heavy. So they need to spread the load, they need to put it to the other side. So sometimes, as much as we think the cabin crew are not doing anything, actually they are already started their very important part of the job, is to look after the safety of everyone, to make sure these compartments are not overloaded. So
Captain Ling,
yes,
since you're talking about the cabin, can I just ask a question which came?
Sure.
Instead of going to the end, okay, one of the question is, at row 8 or 9, I think this is general, there is no window on the 737-900. Any reason for that?
Yes, row 8 or 9, I haven't been on 737 for a long time. Row 8 or 9, why do you not see a window?
Yeah.
If my system knowledge serves me right, if I remember correctly, 8 or 9 is actually a duct where the aircon circulation goes through, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Okay. So that means there's a system which is running there, so you can't put the window there.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, if I remember correctly, it's I think it's around there. So that's where the air circulates in the cabin. We can talk a bit more about that later. Yeah.
Yeah. One more, because you talk about that going through the security. One more question related to that. I wonder why mineral water is not allowed.
Okay. Yeah. So how would I put this? Many years back, if those who can remember, it started since 9/11. 9/11 was about 20 years ago. So ever started that, and then slowly people are sort of smuggling different types of liquid into the plane, and some of this liquid looks exactly like the water. The water is exactly clear, but inside is something else, some other chemicals that can trigger a chemical reaction and can cause explosion. So some people with those ill intention. So one of the reasons why the depending on the security threat level, this is a bit more technical. So depending on the threat level, security threat level in different countries, different requirements, some do allow. You may find some countries do allow, but some majority of countries do not allow. Is because whatever water that you purchase inside the airport, or those you purchase on board or you get on board the aircraft, or those offered to you by the crew, those are already screened through. Those are already passed through security check that says that these are actually really water for you, that's safe for you to drink. So to minimize this kind of bad intentions of people, and mainly for the security and for the safety of everyone, including ourselves. This is the main reason.
Yeah, you can continue. Yeah.
Okay, sure. All right. So just move on to just talk a bit more on the safety features in the cabin. Of the main idea of this talk is about safety. So first thing first, if you realize every plane, every seat will have a seat belt. So of course the seat belt may look very simple. The seat belt goes through many design, certification, and also tests to make sure this seat belt is simple enough for you to use, simple enough for anyone to open it up, and of course it's important enough to make sure it protects you. So like I mentioned earlier, that you may see this exit sign in some of the aircraft that you have been to, or sometimes in the future that you go on board the plane, if you are lucky enough to get one of those seats, emergency exit, generally you have a little bit of extra leg room. So a lot of people who have frequent traveler, they will always ask for emergency exit because it's slightly wider, just in case of any emergency. It's easier for people to go out. So now I'm sure some of you were to ask, what happens if I try to open this door when the aircraft is flying? The answer is you cannot open any of these doors when the plane is flying. When the plane is flying, the cabin is pressurized, and the doors are locked. You can't open any of these doors, no matter how strong you are. Even Dwayne Johnson can't open the door in flight. These doors, emergency doors, can only open when the aircraft is on ground, or when the aircraft or on depressurized, which means there's no difference in pressure. Probably you can relate that back to some of your science lessons. So the idea of this emergency exit is whenever there's an emergency, for example, sometimes we have what they call that. I think it happened before. Quite a few incidents in probably not in Malaysia, in other countries that I don't know what items they bought, and then their bags started to create smoke on the ground, so people can quickly evacuate the aircraft. So just to share a bit more, any regulations or aircraft design, the cabin design, they must, no matter how full the plane is, the cabin is, all passengers must be able to disembark and get out of the aircraft in 90 seconds. So no matter how big or how small the aircraft is, the time limit for everyone to evacuate the aircraft safely is 90 seconds. This is pretty standard regulations. There's also the reason why they always say when you need to evacuate the aircraft, leave behind all your belongings, leave your bags behind so that you don't block other people's way for them to leave the aircraft. So this is just one of the features that we have on board the plane. But thankfully, in my career, we never have to open one of these doors before, other than during an exercise, a training session. So when you see this, don't get too alarmed. Some people get a little bit excited. It's just another window with the door that you can open in terms of emergency. And not to worry, if you do sit there, there will be a cabin crew, or there will be some safety instructions to teach you what to do and how to open the door. Okay, just moving on. Probably you have seen this in some of the movies as well. This, they call it the oxygen mask that drops on top of the just below the overhead compartment. So this oxygen is only hidden inside. You can't see it. So the only time when you actually comes on is when the aircraft they call it the cabin pressure is low, which means the cabin pressure is low, which means there are still oxygen, just that our normal human lungs are unable to breathe in as much oxygen as we need at that altitude. So when this drops, the idea is for you, once you drop, you will probably remember they will say when the mask drop, please pull it towards you. When you pull, it will trigger a chemical reaction that generates oxygen. So all you need to do is just pull, and then you put it in front of your mouth and cover your mouth, and you just breathe. It's actually pure oxygen coming up for you to breathe. So of course, this is something that we don't see. Most people would probably never see this in their entire flying life, and this oxygen is there for you to use while the pilot is able. Pilots will able to fly the aircraft, descend to a lower level. Generally can be 15 to 22 minutes, so that you go to a safe level where any human can breathe normally, meaning to say there is sufficient oxygen supply in the air pressure so that you can breathe. And of course, last but not least, every flight, or not every flight, most of the flight, especially flights that fly over water, you will see the cabin crew giving you a safety demo to say how do you use a life jacket. So in the unlikely event that you end up on the water evacuation, or they call it ditching, you have a life jacket to keep you afloat, because not everybody knows how to swim. Okay, so far I hope I have not been too long-winded, but all in all, our main objective, all these processes, all these things that put in the plane, although we may not see, we may not use it for our entire life, but it's there. The main idea is for your own safety, to make sure in the unlikelihood of anything to happen, there are equipments, there are processes, there are procedures to protect you. And of course, at times like this, when the COVID-19 pandemic is also pretty rampant, so we also have put in additional measures to make sure the aircraft is safe for people to fly. So just want to share a little bit on this. For the AirAsia aircraft, which is almost the same for all airlines anyway. So we have put in a lot of additional measures to make sure our aircraft is good. So just a few things to mention. The aircraft doors are regularly open to let it ventilate. And of course, the aircraft will be sanitized and either using sanitizer or using wipe down technique. Quite a few techniques or different methods we use. And also a lot of questions people actually ask, how safe are the air in the aircraft? So just to explain, this thing called HEPA filter is, I have to read this in a smaller font, is high efficiency particulate emitter for, basically it's a high concentrated filter, which is the same that it is used in the hospitals. Basically, this filter is able to filter out 99% of bacteria and viruses, so that the air is being circulated is always good. It's always what they call it, the bacteria, wouldn't say free, but remove whatever they can. So good question. Just now, a gentleman asked the row 8 and 9. So when the air conducts, so the air circulates in the cabin. So the air will go through the filter and come back out again, so that the air gets circulated. So the process of it will go through these HEPA filters that is being installed. It's the same in hospitals. And I was watching a documentary, even nowadays cars are putting HEPA filters with it also. So just to improve the air quality in the cabin. So just to share, so like what generally, especially what we do take this very seriously. We want to make sure our cabin is safe for everyone. So for very often, most of the time, every flight, we will have people to come and wipe down all the seats. The top right picture, the guy having a gun to spray all the sanitizer to make sure the air or the whatever surface is clean. And of course, the toilets especially need to be wiped down as well, just to make sure all the bacteria, all the viruses are killed. So these are just some of the additional features we have also introduced in this. So on this note, I actually just wanted to say that, flying is a little bit different from before. More things to be done, but in a way it's good, because now we make flying even safer for everyone. Okay. Done with the cabin, now move on to the a bit more, maybe a little bit more technical part of the presentation. So this is generally a cockpit, or we call it a flight deck. What you see here is an Airbus A380 flight deck. Just to quickly have a quick run through with you guys. So you can see that there are tables. So older generation aircraft doesn't have a table, means pilot have to put the food on their lap when they eat. Whereas now you have a table, you can put your food on top of the table, you can eat. And you have keyboards, you can type in information you need. So when you look at those screens in front of you, those are called instrument panel. So it tells you where are you going, how is the aircraft system is doing. And on the top middle part, where you have a panel with some dials and a small little screens there, in general, that is the control panel for the autopilot. And of course, in this aircraft, you look on the sides, on the left side, you can see a stick, like a joystick, similar to those in the flight simulator. Those is for the pilot to manually fly the aircraft. And of course, do take note, there's this 4 little black color thing in the middle, with the red color button here. So you can see it's called, you have the numbers there, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this basically tells you this aircraft or this aeroplane has 4 engines. So in general, commercial jets, we have 2 or even 4 engines. 4 engines, we can fly further. You can fly maybe a bit higher, but not so much. You generally carry more passengers, you can have more power. So maybe you can say that, so many buttons, how does anyone knows what this button do, or what do we do? So in general, pilots takes years and years and years of training for us to know what each and every of these buttons do. Of course, some of those are just keypads, A, B, C, D, E, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as much as you think there are so many different equipment or boxes or whatever it is, many of these are actually backups. So for example, how many car radios do you think there is in a car? In general, each car has 1 radio. So a commercial jet like this has minimum 2, some even 3, some even 4 radios. This is also to for the unlikely event, if 1 radio fails, you still have another 3 more to use. So a lot of these are actually the same system, but they are backups. So even some of the screens that you look in front, you can see there are 5 big screens there. Out of these 5, actually two of them are actually interchangeable. They are backups for each other. And all these screens you can switch. Basically, you can switch channel between them in five different screens to show the pilots what they need to see. So similarly, if anyone ever has the opportunity to go into your cockpit, you can see on top of you there's also a panel full of buttons. Sometimes can be quite colorful as well. So there are also additional backup systems like radios, like lights, like pumps for the fuel, for the hydraulics, for electrics, for the pressurization and all this. So this, if you can look up to the top part, you see those red color square. It says ENG 1, 2, 3, 4, and then also on the left side there's this thing called the APU. The APU stands for Auxiliary Power Unit, which is a small little engine at the tail of the aircraft to use to run some electrical system and some air conditioning system. And these four little red color buttons, they are called fire extinguishers for the engines. So each of these engines has 2 fire extinguisher system minimum in it. So which means basically on 4 engines you have minimum 8 fire extinguishers. So sometimes you wonder how many fire extinguishers we have in the car. Some don't even have one. So these are, like I said, all backup systems to make sure if anything were to fail, there are always something to take over to ensure the safety of the system of the aircraft. So just to share a bit, sometimes people also ask, how do you know where to go, which way to go when you're flying? So this is a very, very old maps that I still managed to find one. Those days we have this big map that is like this long that we use on board the flight. So to find out basically these are highways in the air. So you can see different funny names on it like Opet, Godaf, Tabit. These are waypoints, invisible points that is not there. It's just a position so that the plane know exactly where to go, where to fly. So the ATC will tell the aircraft, will tell the pilots which way to go. So you follow certain airways, you follow each waypoint, then you move on to your destination. So just so you know that every flight in the air has their own flight plan. They have their own route to fly. Some can be in front, some at the back, some can be at the side, but every one of them have a designated route to fly. So the likelihood of people crisscrossing each other is very, very low. They have ATC, they have weather radar, they have radar system, they have a different procedure to make sure everyone keeps a safe distance, fly in a different speed or same speed, but keeping everyone safe. Of course, with the improvement of technologies, we don't have these big maps anymore. We have it on our iPads. So iPads will have all these routes you can plan. These are like, if you have seen your parents driving with the handphone, the waist in front of your car, this is basically how it is. So using iPads, using computers, so you can tell you, okay, this is the way you're going. You can see everything on the screen. Similarly, even on the picture on the right is to show as you come closer to landing. Same thing, there are selected way routes for you to fly, even up to the descent into landing. And in general, remember the few screens that you see, or on the picture behind me, these few screens you see, we just zoom it up into a bit of it. You can see on the top is where the control panel for the autopilots, and of course this display, the one on the left is called a primary flight display. It basically tells you where's the sky, where's the ground, what speed are you flying, how high are you flying. And then on the right, they call it the navigation display, is to show you where is the aircraft now, which way are you supposed to go, and what is the next point you're supposed to fly. So all this information are provided to the pilot, so that is almost it is almost very foolproof that you look at it, you will know exactly where of course you have to go through training. After some training, you will know exactly where you are, which way to go. All these things are there to help the pilots to navigate themselves. And of course, since I mentioned a bit about training, probably some of you might have seen these funny looking devices or boxes that moves around. These are called simulators. So simulators are basically a replica of exactly what the pilot sees in the cockpit in a device. It's almost similar to your Xbox or your PS5, or those days, my time is called Nintendo or Game Boy, It's almost similar to that, but it's exactly the same in like you see in the cockpit. So these are used to do training. So the instructors will put in a lot of emergency procedures, so the pilot will learn will practice so that so if this ever happen, it won't be a surprise to them. So just to show you, this is one of the picture I took when I was the instructor. So I have my own panels to run. So through these two or three, four panels that I have in front of me, I will select different types of failure, fire, something that's broken, whatever. So the two pilots in front, they will have to handle the emergency, handle the failure. So of course they have checklists, they have procedure all through years and years of training for them to go through, so that they know exactly what to do. When this happens in the flight, they know how to handle it. So as much as we talk about what's going on in the cabin and also inside the cockpit, outside the aircraft, there are also a lot of things that's happening to make sure the plane or the flight goes very well. So this is generally what you can see on the ground. We call it the ground handling. So on ground, you can see how the cargoes are lined up to be slowly loaded to the plane. All this may look like a lot of things going on, but every action they do on ground or everything they do has procedures, has requirements. They all have to go through proper training in order for them to perform even the simplest tasks. So you can see that there are electric powers connected, there are cargo loading going on, there are also catering loading going on, and so many things are happening at the same time. So these are all very well coordinated procedures and process before the flights even take off or even when the flights arrive. So I hope I still have a bit of time just to share with everyone what basically this, just to share with you a quick video on this, on what do I actually sort of mean by so many things that's happening. Okay, this is when the video doesn't want to play. Okay. Yeah, it's not playing. I don't know why. Today the internet probably is not behaving very well. Okay, never mind. Actually, you can watch this on YouTube. It's just some of these small clips where we put. Basically, just to talk about every person that you have potentially meet along the way when you get to the aircraft until you comes out. Every one of them has a very specific role to play. They all have been through specific training so that they are able to perform their duties to ensure the safety of the passengers.
Yeah, maybe later we can share the link of that video. Sure. Yeah.
Can. So of course, planes also need to be fixed, just like cars. We send our cars to the workshop. So same, planes also go to workshop. This is what we call a hangar. There are a lot of things are being repaired or upgrade. You know, a lot of things from time to time. Planes has to go to the hangar for them to do some checks and do some repairs. So this is also hangars. You can see some are smaller, some are bigger. So from time to time, generally in every a few months or maybe 3 months, just like a car, the plane will have to go into the warehouse or go to the hangar for the engineers to check through everything to make sure everything is okay, or is there any repairs they need to carry out. They will do it then and then. So just a few more last thing to share. So some of these documents are published by this, you may have heard of it. It's called the International Civil Aviation Organization, the ICAO. So whatever I talk about, all these things come from these international documents that lay out very clearly every airline what are the things you need to do to ensure the safety of your operation, safety of your passengers, and safety of the staff. So you can these are guidelines that is available. So it's the same for almost any airline in the world. Almost everyone have to comply to these rules and regulations. Of course, each country we have our own regulators, which is Civil Aviation Authority of Malaysia. So we all abide to more or less the same rules requirement for us to make sure every process, every training we go through is the same, or rather to meet this minimum standards to make sure the flight operation is carried out safely. So I think one of the questions that we discussed probably before this session was, some people tend to ask, is it safer to drive or is it safer to fly? As much as some people may debate about it, to me, whether you are driving or you are flying, the action is the same. Nobody wants to go on a flight, or nobody wants to go on a trip to cause harm to anyone or to put yourself in any danger. So ultimately, is what we do as a people, for it be in the airline, or for it be example a taxi company. There are many things we put in place. Some things we may not see, we may not realize, but ultimately the main objective is to ensure everyone has a safe journey, has a safe trip. So, just to share a bit more, when I was your age, I was young once. I don't know if you can see me there, because I was one of them, like I mentioned, almost 30 years ago when I went to Australia for my training. These are my batch boys. These are the people in my batch. Some of you may picked up one or two of them are actually one of them is the CEO for an airline, and another guy is also a CEO for quite a successful business. Most of these guys, we are still very close friends. They become just like me, instructors. They have contributed many for the aviation industry. And so, just to share with you, it is becoming a pilot or having a career in aviation industry is not that difficult. I always say don't use the word difficult, use interesting. It's a step everybody takes, everybody goes through, and through the years of experience and learning, you will become successful. So of course, I think one of the question was asked to how to become a pilot. So if you go to the Civil Aviation Authority of Malaysia CAM website, you can see here it says to become there's many different types of license. You can become a student pilot or a private pilot license, and in minimum for you to be an airline pilot, you need to have a commercial pilot license. So one of these things it says that you must be at least 18 years old. You can start your training before you turn 18, but time comes when you get your license, you should be 18 years old. Of course, you need to have a good class 1 medical. Must have a good English, and of course, your SPM result must be relatively good with certain requirement and credits. So, if you are getting there, if you do think of picking up aviation as one of your career, please put in some effort. Make sure you get good results for your SPM, and of course, even STPM or whatever you're currently pursuing, so that you can meet the requirement and pursue a career of becoming an airline pilot. So with that, that's the end of my presentation. Shall we try to run the quiz? Or?
Yeah, sure. We can try one time and see how it goes.
Let me try and see if I can run this quiz. So don't worry about the quiz. If you have not fallen asleep yet, you will know all the answers.
Okay, while the quiz is loading up, can we just take one question?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I have one question here from Muhammad in the YouTube, I think. So he asked the question, I wonder, sorry, I've already asked that question. Okay, next one. During takeoff, why are we not allowed to close the window?
Good question. So one of the reasons why, there are so many windows in the aircraft is if an unlikely event or during a takeoff, there's, for example, any emergency, sometimes, who knows, maybe a dog or somebody was crossing a runway or a car that's crossing a runway, the pilot has to do an emergency stop. So in that sense, or for example, if you do emergency stop, the wheels might create smoke, or for whatever reason, sometimes, could be a fire in the cabin or whatever, so that people can evacuate quickly. So before you go out, you want to make sure what you see outside the environment is safe, so that you can open the door and leave. The main thing is to make sure that people can see outside, especially for the cabin crew. They can look outside and they can determine that the environment is safe enough for you to exit. For example, if there's a fire or there's outside, or the outside of the aircraft is actually a drain, then the cabin will say, no, don't go out this side, go out the other side, because this side, when you go out, you're going to end up in more trouble, you're going to end up in danger. So that's the main reason why windows, there are so many windows, and that's the reason why they want you to open up the windows so that everyone can see outside.
Yeah. Something that's another question that normally people used to ask me also. When you are flying, especially at night, they will switch off the lights. Okay, you need to open the windows and they will switch off the lights during the takeoff and landing. So, what's the reason for that then?
Yeah. Similarly, so the idea is for you to look outside. So a quick experiment for you, for everyone for that matter. If you sit inside your house at night with all the lights brightly switched on, and you try to look outside the window, can you see anything? Chances are you can't, or very difficult, because when the lights are on, your retina of your eyes will get smaller to reduce too much light going into your eyes. So when you go to a dark area, when the retina is small, you cannot see anything. There's insufficient light for you to see. That's the reason why they always turn down the light in the cabin, so that you can see outside, so that the retina opens up bigger. So in darkness you can see. So when you look outside, in unlikely case that you need to evacuate, you will see exactly. You are able to see better. That is the main reason why for takeoff and landing, they will always ask you to open up the window shades and also to then switch off the lights in the cabin.
Yeah, so it's for your eye to adjust.
Correct.
Your eyes don't get a shock when the things happen. You may be blur for a while. So once your eye is adjusted, then it's easier for you to see what's happening. Yeah.
Oh, my screen the quiz is not coming up again.
Okay. So while that one is going, one more. Let's take one more. Is that okay, Captain?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Do you need fuel pumps to turn on APU?
To turn on which one?
APU.
APU.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes and no, depending where you are. So if you are on ground, yes, you need to turn on the fuel pump so the fuel will go to the back of the aircraft so that the APU will run. If you're flying, it's already flying, the engine pumps the fuel already running. So it's easy for the fuel pump, for the fuel to go to the APU engine so it can run. So in certain times, you don't need to turn on the fuel pump. In actual fact, nowadays, the fuel pumps comes on automatically. The pilots don't need to do anything. It comes on by itself anyway.
It's automatic. Yeah.
Oh, I think we managed to get the quiz up. Yeah.
Right.
And also, I think there are some of the participants attempting it already.
Yep, please, yeah.
Okay. So shall we let that run, and meantime we do this, or we'll how are you gonna go about this quiz thing?
Yeah. I don't know. Anyone is free to participate in the quiz, and just okay. I think this will be a good time while you guys are going through the quiz. I do have some items to give away.
So those who can win these quizzes can answer all these 5 questions. There are some present from AirAsia.com given away by Captain Ling.
It's actually some of my personal collection, so I have some lanyards to give away.
Right. Okay. So that will come with Captain's signature. So it's very, very premium.
Backpacks to give away. And some notebooks to give away. I don't know how many do I have, so I will leave it to the new gentleman here to help me out on this.
Okay, maybe I'll make a quick announcement with regards to the quizzes. So you're welcome to submit the entries, and we will have a closing time. All right. So probably maybe Captain Ling will try to see whether you can try to set the closing time to about maybe 12 p.m. tonight.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Yeah.
So which means to say anybody who goes into this platform from now up to 12 p.m. Would have, 12 midnight, will have an opportunity to answer the questions. And we will select the winners, automatic, because this is a very interesting platform which will select the winners based on the speed and accuracy, right? And we'll be able to pick out 5 winners, and we'll send you the gifts, right?
I think slightly more than 5. I think Captain got we will decide on that, but we will have the winners, right. And then we'll send the prize.
We will inform. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay,
so back to you.
I think last but not least, I still have a few of these caps to give away.
Excellent. Yeah.
These are the safety hats that we have for previous campaigns that we run for the guys. Yeah.
Okay, there's some more questions. Can I pose to you, Captain?
Sure. By all means, yeah.
Okay, what would be the pilot's role during an emergency by Muhammad Fitri?
Good question. So, like any other pilot will tell you, the main job of a pilot is to handle the emergency. Of course, the main objective is to bring the plane to either a safe condition or to land as soon as possible at the nearest safe airport as quickly as possible, so that we can all either be safely on ground, or if we need to, we can all evacuate or leave the aircraft safely.
Yeah. All right. How people feel when first time on their flight?
I must say there are different experiences. So, for example, some kids, they love roller coaster, they will really enjoy it. Some that doesn't really enjoy roller coaster, they may not like it so much. But think about it as going on a boat ride. No matter how big or small your plane, the plane flies in the air. It's just like a boat floating on water. So it goes through air. So there will be some, we call it turbulence. It's actually just different air pressure that we go through. So you will feel a little bit of bumpiness. Some days are very smooth, but I would say 80-85% of the time, the flight is pretty smooth, because the pilot are trained to find the smoothest, the most comfortable route to fly, the most comfortable air to fly through, so that it gives good comfort to the passengers. So most of the time, it's unlikely for you to encounter any bad experience. But of course, during monsoon season or certain time of the year, the weather is a bit unavoidable. Therefore, you do feel some uncomfort in the flight. But in general, nothing to worry about, because they have a seatbelt. Planes are built to fly for tens of years and has so many safety features on it. You might feel a little bit uneasy because it's not what you used to, example, sitting in a car, and as compared to in the plane. But in general, there's not much to worry about.
Yeah, because when you're sitting inside the aircraft, you can't see outside what's happening. So people, feel a little bit worried, especially when it's turbulence.
All right. Yeah.
Okay. One more. For how long do the oxygen mask work?
Okay, oxygen mask depending. Some generally can be 15. Longer can be 22 minutes. There are also certain aircraft, they have done some modification, especially those that fly over different areas. For example, near to the mountains, Himalayas, some can go as long as 30 or even 40 minutes. So depending, but in general, 15 to 22 minutes is a pretty standard time.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing is that when you see the mask down there, don't delay and put it on your face first.
Yeah, grab
Right.
it and put it on. Yeah.
Yeah. When if you see all the mask is down and there's an announcement, quickly put it on, because when you delay, you may like what Pengsan go unconscious, right? So it's very important. That's why Captain Ling was saying this word pressurized.
Yeah.
So what happened is when the air inside the aircraft is not enough, it become unpressurized, then you don't have enough oxygen. So that's why you need to put this mask as soon as you can.
Yeah.
Put yours first. Don't try to put others. Put yours first.
All right.
Then you are still alive. Then you put others after that.
Yeah.
Okay. What? Okay. This is from Mr. Santa. Can we lose gravity in the flight?
Okay. You because when the plane flies, it works in the same principle of gravity. So if a plane, probably you have seen it in National Geographic or Discovery Channel, some of these aircraft, they use it to train astronauts. So if a plane goes into a very deep dive, so you can experience zero gravity or lesser gravity that you may experience. So yes, you can lose gravity if the plane goes on a very deep dive. But in a normal day flying condition, it's almost impossible for you to experience that unless something really special or something really sometimes we call it a quick or emergency descent, where the plane has to descend very quickly. It's also for mainly to do with oxygen, so that you can get down to a level that you can have a better oxygen for you to breathe. Then you may feel that it's just like a roller coaster suddenly going down, just that kind of feeling. But most importantly, if you have a seatbelt on, it's not a problem at all.
Yeah. So make sure that you have your seatbelt, because sometimes when it gets turbulence, you'll be flying. At that time, you can feel the positive gravity or the negative gravity, you know. So don't go and hit that. So make sure that you fasten your seatbelt. So for those school children, you know, what is the rate of the gravity is about 10 meter per second. So if the aircraft is going down faster than that, then you will feel like you're floating. That's why the experiment in the you know the space astronauts and all that.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it possible for the oxygen mask to break when you pull it?
Yeah, of course, if you pull hard enough, it won't break. It will come off, you know. Then you won't have oxygen.
Yeah.
So just pull it. It's actually a string tied to the concentrator. Once you pull, the pins come off, it will activate the chemical, so the oxygen will start to flow. So pull it just enough to reach you. Don't pull too hard.
Yeah. Okay, next one. Do pilots use reverse thrust when they land only one engine?
Okay. In general, reverse thrusts are used in concurrent. What means if you have two engines, you go on the same at the same time. It just like so that the deceleration, so it slow down symmetrically. It's just like if you know how do I put this? If you pull only one side, means one side the thrust is going back, and then the other side will move forward, so the aircraft will swing, the plane will swirl to one side. So that's not good. We want to make sure we go straight, we make sure we stay on the runway, and also for the passengers, so they do not feel that they are doing this at the back in the aircraft, so that they have a comfortable deceleration.
Yeah. Okay, this is quite an interesting question, because most people would have asked you before also. Why do we experience air pockets? So this term of air pocket.
Yeah. Okay. So this one let me try to. Actually, there are quite a few different causes for air pocket. Air pocket basically means different air pressure. Different air pressure can be caused by quite a few different causes, but the most common one will be temperature. So if, for example, you take off, you fly in the cold cold weather environment. So for example, you take off from somewhere in high altitude or in the colder country. As you go nearer to a warmer temperature, or you fly south closer to the equator, temperatures start to increase. So that is in a more gradual way. So in normal days, when we talk of air pocket, meaning to say the temperature change very close between different sections of the air. Example would be during what they call that. We call it, for example, if it's like going to rain, you have a thunderstorm out in the sky, you know. So this part of the sky is blue. That part of the sky, you have dark clouds. You have going to start to rain. So the temperature here can be warmer. That side will be colder. So when you go through this temperature change, generally that will create an air pocket. So which means the amount of air that is going through the wing, creating lift, is different. So therefore, you will feel the aircraft sometimes go up, sometimes come down. So that kind of experience. And also can be near the mountains, generally closer to the ground, where the temperature change a bit more prominent. So one reason why temperature change is also as the sunlight shine on the ground, as the ground heats up, the air starts to go up again. So if you're flying through an area where it's a dry land, as compared to flying over an area, the sea, means if you're flying from the land area to the sea area, the temperature heats up differently. So that is also can be an air pocket also. So generally, it's a temperature difference that they cause these air pockets per se.
Yeah. So this is part of the science. So all these school kids, you know. So when you learn geography or when you learn science, so you need to understand this. So all the whatever you learn in the school level is still applicable when you become a pilot. So you need to go through the same thing again. All right. So that's quite interesting. All right, flight with divert. Okay, never happened before. Somebody make a comment here. Never ever take out any safety information card or life jacket out of the plane.
Yes. Thank you very much. Yeah. Please leave it for the next person to read.
Yeah. Okay, this is related to the question to the information that you gave just now about evacuation. What happens if the passengers are not able to evacuate in 90 seconds?
So imagine unlikely event or suddenly it has happened before. I think in one of the recent one was in I think it was in Dubai, where suddenly there was a fire in the cabin. So if people cannot leave in time, then you may get stuck. Either you get burned, or you may inhale too much smoke, and then you will peng sana in the cabin. Then somebody have to come and save you if somebody realize that you are still there. So that is why it's very important to leave your personal belongings behind. I know your bag is important. I know your computer is important, but for the sake of your life and everybody's life, leave everything behind and leave the aircraft as quickly as possible. And do listen to the cabin crew's instructions, because they know, they would have made the assessment which way is a safe way for you to go and which is the best exit for you to use.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't we feel the pressure when you are in a high altitude?
Okay, so depends. So if you, for example, if you go up to Genting Highlands, so generally you have to drive or you take the cable car. So the gradual increase in altitude, which means your body, your ears, your basically your ear, nose, and the ENT will get used to the pressure changes. The eardrum. So you get used to the pressure, the gradual change in pressure. Where else, when you sit in the plane, when it goes up or descend, the pressure change is very fast, because planes generally fly very fast. So the change in pressure is tremendous. Therefore, it's also why the aircraft is pressurized to make it more comfortable for you, so that you don't feel such a major change in temperature that you will have to. Sometimes people get headache, ear block, nose block.
Yeah, so that's what Captain Ling said just now. Before this aircraft is pressurized, that means there is a system in the aircraft that try to maintain the pressure at the same level pressure, even though you are at the higher altitude. So there's a system that maintains that pressure, right? Okay, this also related to the pressure question. Quite interesting. Why do babies cry a lot during takeoff? Is it not safe for infants to travel by flight?
Okay.
Yeah.
You see, even adults like us, when we go on a plane, when the plane takes off and land, the aircraft cabin get pressurized. The what do you call it? The pressure changes. So a baby is only a baby. He or she doesn't understand this yet. So that's how the baby can't tell you that, my ears are pain, so they cry. So
Yeah.
So in general, I think we need to start the quiz again. I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me do that. Okay. We're done.
So the result is what is it? Now. Okay, good. Okay, can I continue the questions? We can take a few more questions. Captain, you have time, huh? Yeah, you're muted, maybe. Okay, why do this from Radhi? Why do airplane?
It's a bit overloaded, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Why do airplane wings have a green and red light?
Oh, wow! This person is very, very observant.
Yeah.
In most of the planes that flies, rather big or small. Okay, before I forget, you can still join the quiz. I'm also not very good at this, so you can still join the quiz to answer the question, because we have until midnight anyway. Yeah. So in general, any planes that fly, those whether not so much commercial, in general, any planes that carry people or passengers that flies, you will see there is a green light and there's also a red light. The red light is always on the left and the green light is always on the right. The reason is because at night, if a pilot were to be flying and suddenly see a green light on my right side, so can you just imagine if you are sitting in front of the cockpit and you see a plane flying past you and you see a green light, so which direction do you think the plane is going? So if the green light is always on the right of the plane, you will know that the plane is going from the left to right, because the right side of the plane is facing you. So the green light is the right side, so it is going on the left to right. So that is the main reason why you can see planes as a green light, as a red light, is to tell you which side of the plane are you looking at night.
So just to to show the direction of the aircraft.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. It also, last time, I mean, even now, it's called either port or starboard. All these things come from the shipping thing,
Yeah.
Port, that means when the ship go to the port, is on the left side is the port, right? So the right side is the starboard. So the right side is green color, so it's starboard. Okay, those are navigation light. Somebody tried to answer here. Make sure the other pilots know. Okay, good. Did pilot remember all the button to control the plane?
In general, they should. In general, they should. Yeah, yeah. Of course, they do remember all the buttons. What they do is what they need to know. So that is the reason why pilots go through years and years and years of training. And even though you have become a pilot, you still need to go through forever ever training. So just to share, I used to tell my mom, I think I went to the wrong profession. In general, I'm a very lazy guy. I thought becoming a pilot is a one-time hard work, but unfortunately, it's not true. Actually, pilot is one of the profession that you're constantly being reminded of the things you learn and what you need to do. Therefore, every 3, 6, 9, 12 months, you always have to go back to do some form of training to make sure our memory is fresh, so that we always know exactly what to do, in more precise which button do what in any time of our career.
Yeah, you always need to refresh your mind, because we can forget. Sometimes if we don't drive, sometimes it takes some time for us. Especially the manual gearing. You don't know. You need to look at the gear. So same like pilots. If you don't fly for some time, because it's just so many buttons, sometimes you can miss which button, and then you can mistakes can cost life. So we must be really careful. Okay, one more. Probably this might be the last one. Does the landing gear collapse after a really hard landing?
Okay, landing gears are by nature is a very strong structure. It's designed to withstand a very high amount of weight, of G load, we call it, or G force. So in normal days landing, unless something really bad happens, the gear is able to take tremendous amount of load, of weight, or force, we call it. So in terms that sometimes we use in pilots, Captain Kana will know, so sometimes we call it a hard landing. A hard landing means a general more firm landing than usual. So in general, the landing gear hardly will break, even if most likely through some of unfortunate accidents they have, maybe some part of the structure may be cracked, or certain components may be affected, but it's very difficult to cause any damage to the landing gear.
Yeah. So normally, what happens at the end of the flight? End of the flight is basically where the pilot is judged. If you can do a soft landing, then everybody will say this is a good pilot. If you do a little bit of pump like that, then they'll end up, and then in fact they will also, that's how also the people think about the airline itself. Don't take this airline. They're always doing bad landing.
Yeah. Just to share a bit more, actually, if you have a very smooth or a landing that you can hardly feel, is not necessarily good. It's nice and comfortable, but generally for pilots, we are trained to land a plane in a firm manner. Why? Because number one, if the runway is wet, so you won't get this thing called hydroplaning. Sometimes when you view skidding on a wet road, sometimes you ride bicycle, you brake very hard, your bike will skid on the road. That's what you want to avoid, so that the brakes will work, so the aircraft will decelerate, will slow down correctly. And also number two, once the aircraft touch down on the runway, a lot of things will happen. The sensor will pick up, the brakes will start to work, the reverse thrust will be able to engage. So a lot of system requires this action to trigger. So therefore, we are always trained to do not too much of a smooth landing, but generally call it a firm landing, so that all the system will start to work. For those who are probably know more, the spoilers, the air brakes, the brakes, the reverse thrust, all this will activate when the aircraft touch down.
So basically, what we want to do is a safe landing. It can be a little bit uncomfortable, but we want to do a safe landing so that we can walk away from the aircraft safely. Yeah. All right. Actually, a lot of questions coming in. Quickly, I just scan through.
Sure.
Okay. Where is the black box located?
Okay. Black box. How do I put this? It's pretty easy, pretty general. People know the black box is at the end of the tail, is at the back of the tail. some newer designs can be in the front. Generally, is in a place that not anyone can access it easily. The black box is something that we don't usually use. We don't usually open it up, and is stored in a safe place that people cannot tamper with. Not to say anyone will want to tamper with it, but generally you keep in a place that is generally high at the back of the aircraft, in a place that is basically it doesn't block any other system. It doesn't create any inconvenience to the engineers. So it's stored there because the black box is something by design it will stay for a long time. You need to do much maintenance or whatever with it. So that's where in general it's at the back of the tail of the aircraft.
Yeah. And it's actually not a black color. It's like orange.
It's actually
like
orange color.
Yeah. Okay. How high can the aeroplane fly?
Okay. Also depends. General commercial jets can fly up to 37, 39, or even 41, or even 43,000 feet. Yeah.
How can pilot handle the plane when the weather is not good?
So same pilot. Instead of just understanding what the buttons do, the system or aircraft, we also need to train a lot on our handling skills. So pilots will go through like what I showed you in the simulator just now. You will have to go through different type of scenario, different type of weather conditions, strong wind, not so strong wind, headwind, tailwind, crosswind, heavy rain, snow, all types of weather conditions will be thrown into the pilot so they can practice, so they can train to sharpen their skills, so they are able to handle different types of weather.
Okay, this one seems related to the hard landing also. How do we know that the deformations, because of the hard landing are within limit? Because some pilots land quite bad.
Okay, in general, when you do come in before landing and you feel the aircraft is shaking a lot, generally it's very strong wind, and generally is accompanied with strong rain or snow. So the pilot is required to put the plane or to land the plane a bit more firm, a bit more hard. So number one, there are a few ways. Number one, the pilot himself is able to judge is this a hard landing or not. Number two, the aircraft will also pick up systems. So similar to what the other gentleman or other person was asking in the black box collect a lot of data, thousands and thousands of information. So it will actually tell the computer this landing is above certain amount of G load, 1.5, 1.7, 2 Gs, whatever. So depends on the setting, it will trigger and tell you, hey, Mr. Pilot, your landing just now was above this limit. So you may want to take a look at it, and or even for the engineers to look at it to see, would it consider be a hard landing, or is there anything we need to look at?
Yeah, the engineers also, when the pilots report, if you suspect a hard landing, the engineers will go near that, landing gear and certain parts, and then they will check the structure of the aircraft.
Yeah.
Okay, this one is also something related to safety, and it's a normal question. Do we actually need to switch off our phone when we are in the airplane?
Yeah. So just imagine a phone that we carry nowadays, a device. Nowadays phone very powerful. The battery is very strong and is able to transmit and receive very tremendous amount of signal. Similarly, the plane also has so many instruments, so many electronic items inside the system. It transmits and also receives so many electronic signals. Would it be communication with the ATC or weather radar or radar picks up from the scanning control for whatever. So when we have too many signals that go in and out of the plane, the chances of it, although it's very, 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 very low, there will still be a slight chance that these signals can interfere with each other. Just imagine when these signals got mixed up and the pilots get wrong information in front for them. So they may do based on the information given to them, they wouldn't know anyway. They may fly the wrong way, unlikely anyway, or make certain error judgment in the information provided to them. In general, it almost never happens. Nowadays, technology has improved so much, but still, that very little chance that it may happen. So, for the safety of everyone, for the safety of yourself, your passengers, and also the crew, and also the pilot on the flight, that's why we always tell people to switch on their phones.
Yeah. Probably we'll take the last question, Captain Ling. If the hydraulics in the plane fail, is there any emergency protocols pilot follow to get the plane down safely?
Yeah. In general, each plane has 2 or 3 or some even 4 different hydraulic systems. So different hydraulic systems run different things, can be different part of the gear, different part of the flight controls, the wings, the ailerons, the rudder, the elevator. So it runs different things. So like I said, a lot of things in the aircraft has many different layers of backup. So if the plane has 2 or 3 hydraulic systems in one fail, the other still works. So you can still fly and land safely. Similarly, if even if a plane with 3 hydraulic systems, if 2 were to fail, is very unlikely anyway. The pilots are still trained, proficient enough to fly and land the plane safely. And in most of the modern jets, even if all hydraulic system fails, the pilots are still able to fly the plane in a what they call it. We call it the degraded mode. It's a slightly not so efficient or effective mode. They can still able to fly the plane and land it safely.
Yeah. Okay. This also probably okay. I'll make this as a last question. Quite interesting also. When you are flying, what time zone do you use?
Okay. Good, fantastic question. Very good. So when we fly, you will see generally in the cockpit there are also a few clocks, 2 or 3 clocks, also like I say backups, but we always fly UTC or GMT, or we call it the Zulu time, it's the Greenwich Meridian time, which is in the non-summer time is actually the London time, the UK time. So that is, if you look through back your science books, when the latitude is 0, that is where the Greenwich Meridian time is, the GMT time is.
Yeah. So this is something that the students would like to go and look at their geography, longitude, latitude, and what's the time difference between each longitude and things like that. Okay, this science. Okay, Captain. With that, we'll stop your presentation now. I'll just thanks a lot for coming over and giving this fantastic talk. So as what Captain Ling talked about, everything that he touched is actually all related to science. This is the knowledge of science. He talked about aircraft design, he talked about the operations, and he also talked about the maintenance. So if you want to get involved in all this, you need to have science background, right? He talked about how windows are designed, the seat allocation, all these are studied over time. They decide where to put the children, where to put the old people and all that, right? Cabin, oxygen, seat belt, life jacket, aircraft cleaning. It talks also a little bit on the air traffic, airways, and also about the ground operation. So everything that he talked about is everything about science, and a lot of pictures that he shared. So I'd like to thank Captain Ling once again for coming over with quite a short notice, and he prepared and give a good presentation today. Once again, thanks Captain Ling. And then now, okay, with that, I will pass it over back to. With that, I'll just make another announcement. So next week we will have another talk. I think it's about wind tunnel. How it's more of engineering, given by Mr. Hay. And with that, I'll pass it over to either Mr. Ramesh or William to make a final remark, and then we will stop because we already 5:22 now. Yeah, thanks. Thank you.
I'll just say something and then I'll pass it to William.
Yeah.
All right. So again, I think thank you to Captain Brumal for the wonderful moderation of this session. You have summed it up very well in terms of the benefits that we want to give our students. Right. So like I said, many of them are very excited because they want to hear it from a pilot, from an industry expert. And Captain, you have delivered that very well. That objective has been met. So we're very pleased that we see the questions posed by the students. Now, I think some are maybe from the industry itself because some questions were very highly technical, but it has been a very good eye opener to the others. So we hope those who followed this session will be inspired to be more well informed and, of course, ultimately to go into the science streams. Right. So I think that's our objective. And the aviation industry is lots of opportunity. And I think you have proven that so very right. So the other thing is that in regards to this is housekeeping. Those who have participated in this series will receive their certificate. Many of them have asked us for certificate of participation, and so we have generated, and we will be sending out this through the Google form that's been done. And as for the quizzes, Captain, I think I see that many of them are still inquiring. So perhaps we can still put it up here, or we can share it in other platforms until a certain time that you can set the time to close it, right? So I think we can make it available. Those who have entered here, they can still start, but then there'll be a specific time that you can set and then close it at that time. And once you have generated the winners, just let us know, and we will do the rest.
Yeah, maybe Captain Ling can announce what time you like to close the.
I think first thing first, first of all, my apologies. I'm not really not very good at this. So I will try to, maybe if it's possible, I will try to post the link on the YouTube so that everyone can still see. Okay,
Yes.
still access. And then like what Mr. Ramesh has mentioned, so by midnight we will close. Then
Right.
we can finalize the winners. If it's okay
So
with
you'll set it at by midnight. What we will do, we will also post it on our Facebook. Right, William? I think we can do that. And if the link for the video is ready, we can also share the video, the recorded video,
Yes.
so that those who watch the video then can answer the questions as well. We'll do that on our Facebook. All right. So thank you all again for this wonderful session. And I'll pass to William, our partner with Stanford.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Ramesh and Captain Karan, and especially our key speaker today, Captain Ling. Very informative. Just a quick note here. If you're 16 years old or you're 15 years old, you can be a pilot, first officer in maybe 6-7 years, I would think, if I'm correct. I do remember very, very young pilots who were piloting the 737s, and all the makciks all couldn't believe that they were, so young. So a definite advantage to be able to jump into this. Keep to your science streams. We can't emphasize that enough. And please soak in as much as you can. We'll post this on YouTube as well, so you can actually go through this video again. And hope to see you all again for next week's session. Thank you very much, and we're signing off right now. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Then do we want
yes.
to do a group photo?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I actually took a few just now, but if everyone would like to turn on their cameras, we can do a quick group photo.